Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on November 4th, 2021 at approximately 8:09 p.m. PST. So, have you managed to get an idea put together as far as where you would like your life to go? We're all starting in the same place. We're all starting right here, right now. How you got from where you are to where you from where you were to where you are doesn't honestly make any difference, aside from it gives you a whole pile of background information as to why you ended up here. But the reality is you're right here. Now, what I found is, and this is the primary reason I came back to this world in all this lifetime, was to pass on a very simple message. Working together, we can make this a better world for just about everybody. There will be exceptions, there always are. But where you start is take a look at exactly where you are. Ask yourself, what is it that you're not content with? Now, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Absolutely subscribe to our channel. Okay, as there's a lot more information coming up, and it really is time to get started on varying that up a bit. And thank you very much for that. I got that message loud and clear. So what I'm looking at here, when I first started on this journey, it was because I had a lot of people asking me to put a lot of information out. Problem is that there is so much of it, and organization is one area where I have not been really, shall we say, adept at. Between organization and marketing, I'm pretty much in the bin. It's almost as bad as if I'm cooking. But take a look at where your life is. And you start with how your body is feeling. Okay, because you take a look at the energy inside your body, i.e., your mental state, your health, exactly what you're feeling content with, what you're feeling upset about. Now, the reality of it is, it's easier, in all fairness, to figure out what you're not content with. Okay, so once you figure out what you are content with inside, then you take a look at the way your house is. Take a look at the energy in your house. Now, the kitchen, where it comes to society, the family is the primary spot. That's the backbone of society, is the individual families. But where it comes to individual houses, okay, when running a house, the backbone is the finances, which is why I keep this little statement here. Okay, actually, it's this one that is really important. This one says, I have legally attained a minimum of $3,000 by November 30th, 2021 at 1 minute to midnight. Because, in all fairness, figured it out. I actually only require, and this is where you start with finances. Take a look at how much it costs you to run your household. Okay, and I do mean your rent or mortgage, utilities, food, entertainment, insurance. Not necessarily in that order, but all of those things, and let's remember transportation. All of those things combined, that's where you start. And then every month, if you make that number, increase the amount you're aiming at. As odd as it sounds, it works like a charm. Now, where I'm looking at, okay, I came here to pass on this one little message and to show you how to do it. Now, I've gone back and forth way too much, so one of the things I have to do tonight is come up with a direct battle plan. So, to put that in perspective, where it comes to writing, which is what I do, that's where I found I enjoy the most. Okay, as far as my own pastimes go. So pick whatever your goal is, even if you've put it on hold. Doesn't matter. Pick a goal that you desire to attain. No matter when you desire to attain it, if you're not dead yet, aside from the amount of time the time that you desire to get done. Like, for instance, if you had a goal, an education level, a project, whatever, and you desired to get it done by the time you were 20, well, In all fairness, if you're older than 20, you won't do it before you're 20. But you may well still have time to do it. Okay. Now, from my standpoint, and I know I've got to get a little more organized, what I haven't quite figured out is where the most important things are. And if you've got ideas of what the real important things are to you, absolutely drop me a message, drop me a note in the comments below. If it's something you'd like to ask me that you don't desire the whole world to know about all at the same time, then drop me a note in one of the contact points below this video. Okay, that's the one big project, because changing the way that the world is working, and it is changing, but it's going to require the input of virtually everybody. Okay, everybody doing their own part. Now, we're all equally valuable. Okay, which is why over there I have this sign that says, I am worth it. Four most powerful words in combination regarding rebuilding self-esteem and self-worth. If you don't have that sign handy, like as you can see, I took normal wood and a magnifying lens. Well, you can't really see I took the magnifying lens, but that was burnt with a magnifying lens. Okay, put that where you can see it to remind yourself. Now, from my standpoint, I'm still trying to figure out how to get organized, which I'm telling you, one of the best ways is to get a list together. Problem is, and the problem can be, and I know it was with me, I put too many things on the list, and the list itself got bogged down. So what I've changed it to is I'm literally only putting the big projects down. Okay, so when I get done this, I have to do there's another video, assuming, because I'm still on shift right now. But I'm going to work at getting it dealt with, getting things done as soon as I get done this video. But get a direction in mind, as in identify what you're not content with. And yes, I know I've repeated that multiple times. Okay, if you're not content with something, take a look at whatever it is, modify what you're doing, modify the things that you're not content with. But you minimize the negative, you maximize the positive. By doing that, you'll draw the energy towards the positive. And I'll tell you, the less stuff that you don't like around you, the lower your stress goes, and the easier it's going to be for you to cope with the ongoing issues. Okay, now I was quite happy. Today I went out. Okay, and Christmas itself, for me, yes, I'm a little early for Christmas. I won't be going into a lot of it. But it did matter. It mattered to me from the standpoint of, I finished my Christmas shopping today. I've got one package to send out. Well, technically, I've got two packages to send out to make sure they get there on time. But I'm done with the shopping. And for me, that's extremely beneficial. Okay, I don't have any more shopping to do. I've got some stuff that I've got to build. Okay, as a matter of fact, come to think of it, I can't send it out tomorrow because I've got to build the thing I desire to first. But most of my work is done as far as that goes. The office tomorrow I will be going through. Okay, I've got a number of bills that have to get paid. I make sure mine are paid by the 17th of the month. Primarily because of the fact I look at when my regular check comes in. And when it comes in, then I pay the bills. It gives me 2 days after my check comes in to get the bills out of the way. Again, it boils down to an issue of correcting the energy flow so things run more smoothly. I strongly recommend you do the same thing. Okay, now for me, it really boiled down to, it was just an idea that somebody dropped in my lap. I don't even know who. But because of the way credit cards work, I now take my credit card to pay my utility bills and what have you. And then when my paycheck comes in, pay off the credit card. Net result, I earn extra dollars on the credit card. Take a look at the benefits that you get on your credit card to figure out whether that works. Whether it works for you. Okay, but it only works, in all fairness, if you're not carrying a balance. That's where the real catch is. Okay, so with that in mind, okay, one of the big things from my end is this. I've got to get that left hand working because I don't like the way that sits at this point. Do I have... No. I was looking to see if I had a board here that I could work with, but the reality is I don't. Well, actually I do, but it's over there. At any event, figure out, pick a direction that you desire to go. In my case, it really boils down to this. Okay. Find what you're not content with and make an absolute concerted effort. I sat down the other day. I lost 3 days trying to piece it together, but I knew I had to move some stuff from the end of an epoch to Return to Paradise. But it took me a couple of days to figure out what exactly had to be moved because I'd written it ineffectively. Got that all sorted out. Now I'm moving forward. Okay. If you put a project on hold, especially if you put it on hold because somebody else told you it wasn't good enough, okay, don't necessarily take their word for it. Okay. For me, I write because that's what I enjoy doing. Okay, some people read because that's what they enjoy doing. I know on the computer, a staggering number of people play video games. Many of them getting paid top dollar for doing so. I don't know how. I don't enjoy the video games to start with. But find something that really gets your heart going, that you really enjoy. Okay, very important from that standpoint, because once you find something that you can enjoy doing, the work aspect of it, even if it's a lot of work, if you're enjoying it, it will not likely feel like work. That's the real kicker to it. If you're doing a job that is drawing on you, that is difficult for you to find enjoyment in, you're likely to find that you spend more money trying to make yourself happy or trying to feel you're happy than what you actually generate. And it does punch a real hole in it. I used to be spending $350 a month at a grocery store. And of course, when they came out with this whole passport thing, my first thought was, well, thank heaven somebody came up with a way that I could curb that little tendency. You know, they came up with the passport, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm not spending that much money. It also forced me to go the route of ordering my food online, which, again, this whole passport thing didn't have a negative effect. I found a real benefit to it. Of course, I don't like going out in public that much anyway, which may be part of the reason there. But when you're taking a look at it, ask yourself if you're content. Okay, if you're happy with you, because ultimately that's where you start. Doesn't matter, as I told one boss or one potential boss, that if I'm not happy with the work, whether he's happy with my work or not isn't going to mean a whole lot aside from I won't get fired. The same applies to you. If you're not enjoying your work, start looking for a different type of work. But do not quit your current job until you have a replacement income. Very important, because I don't know about you, but it seems irrational to quit your paycheck before you have a replacement, because I don't like living on the street, or at least I don't think I would. Fortunately, this time I have not made it to that point. Okay. But take a look at the way your life is going. Pick what you're not content with, and that's what you start working on. And quite seriously, tomorrow morning, that is literally where I'm going to be starting. Is one step at a time and just clearing house, as it were. Because I get myself really tied up in a strange knot. I ended up today was really a weird, well, my energy's been off anyway. But pick a goal, and here's the thing. When I mentioned this issue of working with each other to make this a better world, I'm noticing more and more that the whole issue of working with people is becoming more prevalent on the internet. Okay, but I'm also finding something else that is a little disconcerting, and that is that people have taken the same idea when the women's lib movement came out back in the 60s. And then they went way overboard on how that was working. Well, people have done the exact same thing on being politically correct. People are so worried about hurting somebody else's feelings that they're not saying what needs to be said, what is really required, and they're hurting themselves. Now, if you're one of these people that tends to bite your tongue about what you're feeling, okay, and because you're worried about hurting somebody else's feelings, ask yourself this: how much are you hurting yourself? Now, I used to bottle my emotions really badly to the point that it caused me a stroke. Brilliant move. Got my brain wrapped around the idea that bottling wasn't a good idea. Unfortunately, as I saw printed on a T-shirt one day, everybody has this funny little, that funny little voice in your head that says, "I shouldn't say that." Well, I don't have one of those. There are limits and there are certain things I will not say to people. Not many. But what you have to look at where it comes to the way the world is working for you, we have to realize if you're not being clear with people, they're not going to know that you're upset that you said something off kilter for them, and can cause a lot of friction that is really overstated, okay, or gets really blown out of proportion. Like, I made a comment because my health has been a concern. I made a comment one day and I wasn't absolutely clear on it. Okay. And instead of the person registering that my weight had dropped to a certain level, they took it as though my blood pressure had. Well, considering we were talking about the number 216, your weight dropping to 216 pounds is great. Your blood pressure dropping to 216 points, is not really good. That means your blood pressure is way off the charts. And in all likelihood, you're in the middle of a stroke or a heart attack. Fortunately, it was one of those misunderstandings that it caused us both to laugh when we figured it out. But there are many times when people bite their tongue and do not tell people what they're really concerned with. And that's where the problem comes in. So yeah, you may hurt somebody's feelings by being honest. But how much damage are you going to do or permit to be done by not saying what you're talking about? Now, I'm not telling you who to follow by any stretch, but I build myself as a spiritual guide because of one little detail. The tools I offer people are the same ones that I personally use in my own life. The philosophies I talk about are the ones I live by. If you're following somebody that is telling you things like, for instance, fear whatever, if you're taught to fear, okay, in most cases, it's not a good idea. Use fear rationally, yes. Somebody pulls a gun on you, absolutely. Nothing's really worth whatever you've got in your pocket. That bullet that they may have in the gun isn't really worth it. Okay, your life is going to be a little bit more complicated to replace. So, if you're facing things like that, that's great. But I see way too many spiritual paths where they say, fear the creator. Okay. Well, the thing we have to remember is if you're following that line of thinking, okay, if the creator created everything, okay, that means they created every religion, they created all the things that are good and all the things that are bad. They had to create both in order to give you freedom of choice. Because if you don't have a choice, it's not a choice. Okay. It's also, I can talk about rearranging things all I desire, but if I don't get off my tail feathers and get them done, all it is a lot of hot air. Okay, and it's the same as on your end. You can talk about all sorts of things, but if you don't do anything with them, you're going to run into snacks. Okay, so I'm encouraging you very strongly to take a look at the way your life is going and ask yourself, am I totally content with it? If not, doesn't matter how small the thing is, if you're not totally content with it, it's time to change the direction that energy is running in. Okay, I've got a lot of paperwork on my desk right now, but of course, the nice part there is I've got stuff on my desk because of the fact that I've been working on the desk all day. So the reality, what I'm looking at here is just what stuff I've got that I don't require. Okay, by doing that, I can eliminate the complications. I can get the junk out of the way, and net result, I can make my office look right. By the end of today, I'll have this entire office clear, or the entire desk cleared off again. Okay, including the stuff I've got sitting here, and these guys even. These ones are one of those neat little projects. I haven't done much with this because I've been a little preoccupied writing. Can't imagine why. Because once I got that little hiccup done where it came to the end of an epic, which is now set to come out at the beginning of next year, it'll be ready to go. It'll be ready for print by December. Well, by the end of December, which puts it coming out early January or February, depending on when they put it to print. But it'll be ready to go at that point. And that will be a massive marker for me because the other big project that I put in motion was to get a series of books out. Well, I've got the one out, but it could have been classified as a one-hit wonder, as it were. Okay, in all fairness, it hasn't done as well as I would like, but that's probably because I haven't been promoting it properly. One of my shortfalls. Whatever project it is you're looking at, whatever it is you're aiming at attaining or aiming at creating, if you don't do the work, it's not going to happen because you're the only one in existence that can be successful for you. Okay, you're the one that's got to do the work. Yes, absolutely. Reach out to other people to figure out how to do it. Okay, but talk to people that have successfully done it. For instance, if you desire to be a millionaire, okay, I can't tell you this is how to become a millionaire yet. Okay, and it's a great idea to talk to your parents, but the reality is if they are not millionaires, they don't necessarily know how to become a millionaire. So talk to the people that have got it, because the only difference between you and a millionaire is the amount of money you've got. That's it. It's got nothing to do with your potential, but it does have to do with your realized potential. In other words, you may well have the potential to be there, but if you don't put the effort into it, you're not making it. Now, if you're following somebody that is telling you what you cannot do, okay, if you buy into that, whether you believe you can do it or you believe you can't, in most cases, you're going to prove yourself right. Now, one of the obvious issues is if you believe you can fly, whether you believe you can or not, doesn't necessarily affect gravity. Because one of the things you got to remember is reality is modified by willpower. You have the willpower to change the way your world is working. The reality behind that is, in many cases, if you're believing, for instance, if you're hanging on to, if you pick up anything, okay, this funny little chip box, okay, we all recognize that. If you believe this is solid, which frankly it is, the molecules move slow enough, it's solid, you can tell. But if you believe that you can pass your hand through that, it's not just you that has to believe it, but you're also fighting the idea of what the rest of civilization believes. Okay, and the way that works, and that's probably where I should start tomorrow, is it depends on if you understand the interaction of subquantum molecules. Now, you don't have to be able to replicate it in terms of giving scientific explanation. Many of the things that I know for certainty here, I cannot explain in modern terms, because frankly, I've never been educated in that field. Matter of fact, I've been educated in very few fields. Okay, but this doesn't change the fact that the philosophies and the belief structures I work with, and I'd love to say that I work with a belief structure that I can walk through solid walls. The sad reality of it is, even I don't believe myself quite well enough to do that just yet, at least not unless I get into a panic. At which point I run on pure instinct, and I have had witnesses see me do that. Okay, where I had to go from one location to another. Now, people, when they get into a panic state, have a tendency of accessing higher energies that, from a conscious level, you may not realize. Okay, So, one of the biggest things I've got to take a look at, and this is where I would love to hear from you in the comments below, the different topics that you would like me to deal with. Because there's a staggering amount, and where do I start? I'd love to say, like I do with most projects, start at the beginning. Well, the beginning is a very complicated place to start because most people don't understand how far back that beginning goes. Okay. And if I go through what I went through as a childhood, if I try and explain how I got to where I am, let's just say my life has been more like science fiction than anything else. Yours may well have been very much the same way. Okay. So take a look at where you are right this moment. Take a look around the area. Quite frankly, I think what I'm doing, what I've got to do, actually, I know what I've got to do. So I will deal with that as soon as I get done this video. I have to make a very concerted effort, just like you. If you desire your world to change, you've got to make the concerted effort to make it change. And you're the only one in existence that can do it. Okay. All sorts of people can encourage you to do things, but unless you actually get off your tail feathers and make it happen, it's not going to. That's just the reality behind it. Okay. Now, I do know that once you get started, if you get into a rhythm or when you get into a rhythm, it becomes a lot easier to accomplish. But it's going to require your effort and your your energy to make it happen. Certainly draw on the support of other people. But make sure whoever you're following, make sure they're following their own guidelines. Okay. Trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that shelf up here. I've still got a lot of stuff. I've still got a lot of room I can move stuff out of. Right. I just haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do with it, or for that matter, because most of that is blank paper, which frankly I haven't used in a couple of years, which probably means I don't really require it, especially since I don't have an active printer. That's just a side thought. But pick a goal, and what I'm going to do is ask you this. Okay, because it really is time to put the effort into it. I got the book sorted out so I can get on with it. Pick a goal. Doesn't matter what it is. Something you're not content with in your own life. That's where we start, where you're sitting right here, right now. And we start changing the way your energy is working so that you're better equipped to handle your own life. And thereby, by extrapolation, you'll be able to deal with the people outside. Now, I know I'm not perfect. Okay. So I do encourage you to find a group of people, family, chosen family, as in a good circle of friends, a spiritual guide, be it a church, a temple, a coven, whatever. Even a support group works like an absolute charm if they're in the same mindset that you are, to help you and help yourself feel more supported. Now, I will be back tomorrow, and hopefully I'll be a whole lot more organized. But I will be back tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.